I was locked in a small room with a metal door that night. It had a tiny window with bars. The space was barely big enough for a small mattress and a bucket of water. I sank onto the mattress, feeling despair wash over me. How had my life turned into this nightmare? All my years of hard work and patience, and now everyone might think I'm a thief. I buried my face in my hands and cried. I thought of my little necklace with the crest, which I still had hidden in my apron pocket even now. It was the only thing that ever gave me comfort about not having parents. I clutched it and prayed softly, asking God or anyone listening that the truth would come out and my name would be cleared. A few hours later, I heard a soft knock on the metal door. "Amaka," came a whisper. It was Obina's voice. I quickly wiped my eyes and went to the tiny bed window. It was late night and the hallway was dim. Obina's face appeared beyond the bars, lit by a lantern he carried. "Obina," I whispered back, both relieved and embarrassed for him to see me like this. He looked at me sadly. "Are you okay?" I nodded, even though it wasn't true. "I'm fine," I said quietly, not wanting to complain. "Thank you for coming. I'm sorry you had to see me like this." He shook his head. "You have nothing to be sorry for. I know you didn't do it." My eyes filled with tears again, but this time tears of gratitude. You believe me?" "Of course I do," he said softly. "I trust you, Amaka. I know you are not a thief. Something is very wrong here, and I will find out what happened." I was so overwhelmed that I reached my hand through the bars. He reached his hand in too, and our fingers squeezed together. "Thank you," I choked out. He swallowed hard, as if holding back strong emotion. "I'm so sorry I couldn't stop them from locking you up right away." I tried to speak, but the king had to follow procedure. "But I swear I will get you out. I will go through every piece of evidence." Chichi and Auntie Chinyere are also trying to remember if they saw anything. I nodded, my hope returning a little because of his resolve. "Please be careful," I whispered. I knew investigating might put him at odds with Adaku or others. He gave a small, reassuring smile. "Don't worry about me. Just hang in there, okay? You'll be out soon, I promise." We talked a little more. He asked if I had water and if I had eaten. He had brought a flask of pepper soup from the kitchen, still warm, and passed it through the window bars to me. "You must eat something to keep your strength," he insisted gently. I realized I was hungry and cold. I sipped the hot soup and felt some warmth return. Obina stayed by the door as I ate a few spoonfuls, just to make sure I was alright. Before he left, he said quietly, "Amaka, please don't lose hope. I won't let this injustice stand." Hearing the passion in his voice, I felt a soft flutter in my heart despite my misery. "I know. Thank you so much," I whispered. He looked like he wanted to say something more, but instead he gently let go of my hand and said, "Try to rest. I'll be back in the morning." After he left, I curled up on the mattress. It was a long, long night, but knowing that Obina believed in me gave me the courage to endure. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of the metal door unlocking. Obina and another guard opened it. I sat up, heart pounding. "You are free to go, Amaka," Obina said, smiling widely. "You have been cleared." I was stunned for a second, then I leaped to my feet. "Truly, what happened?" The other guard, a friend of Obina's named Emeka, replied with a grin. "Captain Obina found the proof that you didn't steal anything." Obina chuckled. "Well, it was a team effort. Let's get you out of here first." I stepped out of the cell, and without thinking, I threw my arms around Obina in a grateful hug. He seemed surprised, but then I felt his arms hug me back strongly for a brief moment before we pulled apart. Both of us blushing as Emeka pretended not to notice. "Sorry," I mumbled, but Obina was smiling. "There is nothing to be sorry about," he said softly. "Come, the king wants to speak with you." As we walked, Obina quickly explained what happened. Chichi remembered that on the night before the festival, she had seen Princess Adaku walking near the servants' quarters when no one else was around. It was very unusual for the princess to be there, but Chichi hadn't thought much of it until after I was accused. She told Obina and Auntie Chinyere. Obina also checked with one of the palace security camera recordings in the corridor. The camera near my quarters showed Princess Adaku sneaking into my room with something in her hand and coming out without it. When Obina presented this evidence to King Ifeanyi early in the morning, the king was shocked and deeply upset. He confronted Princess Adaku privately, and she eventually broke down and confessed that she planted the bracelets to frame me because she was angry and jealous. Hearing all this, I was relieved but also stunned. Jealous? Adaku was jealous of me? That idea seemed almost ridiculous. She had everything and I had nothing. Perhaps she had noticed Obina's kindness towards me and in her spoiled mind decided that I was somehow competing for attention that she thought should be hers alone. I felt sad as well that someone I had served loyally could hate me so much without real reason, but my strongest feelings was relief that the truth came out. Obina led me to the king's private sitting room. I was nervous, but not as terrified as the night before. King Ifeanyi stood by the window, looking out at the palace gardens. When we entered, he turned. His face looked older today, lined with worry and sorrow. He dismissed Obina and the other guard, keeping only a close advisor in the room with us. Amaka, the king began quietly. I'm so sorry, my child. I had never heard the king apologize to a servant before. I shook my head quickly, bowing. Your Majesty, you do not need to apologize to me. He raised his hand gently. I do. You are wronged in my house by someone I love. I failed to protect you. I hope you can forgive me. I was overwhelmed for a moment. I couldn't find my voice. This powerful king, my ruler, was asking for my forgiveness. Tears filled my eyes again. Of course, Your Majesty. Thank you for believing in my innocence. He stepped closer and looked at me with deep sorrow and compassion. You have shown nothing but goodness and honesty since you came here. It pains me greatly that my daughter treated you so cruelly. I have spoken to Adaku. She's remorseful now, though it will take a lot for her to truly change. He sighed heavily, as if a great weight was on him. I must also apologize for her slap yesterday. That was unacceptable. I have already told her this. My cheek is fine now, I said softly. Indeed, the swelling had gone down. I just want to continue working and do my duties well. The king studied me quietly for a moment. There was something gentle and almost familiar in his gaze that made me feel warm. It reminded me of how I imagined a father might look at his daughter with concern and kindness, but I brushed that thought aside as wishful thinking. King Ifeanyi then said, Amaka, I realized I do not know about you personally, aside from your work here. Please, sit. He motioned to a chair. It was unusual for a servant to sit with the king, but I obeyed and sat gingerly on the edge of the chair. He sat opposite, still wearing his rich robes from the previous night's event, though his crown was set aside on a table. Tell me about yourself. You have no family. I've heard. I nodded, folding my hands nervously. Yes, Your Majesty. I was raised in an orphanage in the nearby town until I was about 10. Then I lived with a foster aunt who needed help in her shop until I got the job here. I never know my real parent or where I was born. All I have is... I hesitated but then decided there was no harm. A small necklace that was found with me as a baby. At the mention of a necklace, I saw King Ifeanyi's eyebrows lift slightly. A necklace? You are found with it? Yes, Your Majesty. The nuns at the orphanage said I was left at their gate one morning as a baby, with nothing but that necklace and a note with my first name, Amaka. The note didn't have any other information. I have kept the necklace safe ever since. May I see it? He asked gently. Of course. I carefully reached into the pocket of my apron, where I always kept it wrapped in a little cloth. I unfolded it and revealed the small gold locket with the lion and star crest. It glinted softly in the light. The king leaned forward and took a sharp breath. May I? He asked, reaching out. I placed the necklace in his hand. He examined the crest closely, his eyes widening. This crest? This is the royal insignia of Umuoma, he said slowly. His voice strange. On this design, it looks exactly like. He faltered, then composed himself and looked at me with intense eyes. Many years ago, when Noma had a special locket made, it had a lion and a star on it, a symbol of her kingdom. She wanted to give it to her newborn child as a blessing. What? But my child? His voice choked slightly and my heart started thudding. He continued. Our child was a girl, born 18 years ago. We are told she died shortly after birth. The locket was never found. We assumed it was lost in the confusion of that tragic day. I felt like I couldn't breathe properly. My ears were ringing with the king's words. A baby girl, 18 years ago, a locket. My mind raced. I was 18. Could it be? No, it seemed impossible. I was an orphan with no background. How could I possibly be? King Ifeanyi looked at me, and I saw his eyes were now moist with tears he was holding back. Amaka, he said in a trembling voice, where did you get this necklace? Are you absolutely sure it was with you as a baby? I nodded, my own hands shaking. Yes, Your Majesty. The sisters always said it belonged to me. They even wondered if I came from a royal family because of the crest, but they had no way to find out. They eventually just assumed maybe it was a trinket someone gave. I have kept it hidden because I didn't want it to get lost or stolen. Tears began to roll down the king's cheeks now as the realization started to dawn on both of us. This was meant for my daughter, he whispered, almost to himself. The child I thought I lost. Could you be? He reached out suddenly and gently grasped my hand. Amaka, my dear, would you allow me to do something? I need to know the truth. By now, I had tears streaming down my eyes too, though I was still a bit in shock. What do you want to do, Your Majesty? He let go of my hand and stood up, pacing a little, trying to compose himself. If you are who I suspect, then you are my own blood, but I cannot be sure. Tear tests, DNA tests, we can do with hair or blood to confirm if you are my child. It is a scientific way to prove parentage. I would like to do that as soon as possible without raising anyone's suspicion. I was stunned. The king was implying that I might be his daughter, the real princess of Umuoma. My head spun. But the locket, it matched his story perfectly. And if it were true, it explains so much, perhaps why I never knew my parent, why the queen's portrait felt so warm to me, even maybe why Princess Adaku hated me on some unconscious level. It was unbelievable, and yet, deep inside, a small voice in my head whispered that it made sense. I realized King Ifeanyi was waiting for an answer, looking at me hopefully and anxiously. I managed to find my voice. Okay, Your Majesty, I will do the test. He nodded, relief and anticipation on his face. Thank you, my child. We'll keep this secret for now. I'll call the royal doctor discreetly and have it arranged by tonight. In the meantime, he gently placed the locket back in my hand and closed my fingers over it. Keep this safe. It may very well be proof of who you truly are. I closed my hand around the locket, feeling like I was in a dream. Yes, Your Majesty. He gave me a soft smile through his tears. Then, as if unable to resist, he stepped forward and very carefully pulled me into a hug. It was hesitant at first, as though he wasn't sure he had the right, but I immediately hugged him back. I couldn't help it. If there was even a chance this man was my father, I wanted to embrace him, and somehow in his arms, I felt a peace and warmth that I had never felt before in my life. It felt like home. He let me go after a moment. I'm sorry, he said, wiping his eyes. This is all so sudden. I don't mean to overwhelm you. I shook my head, sniffing and smiling a little. It's okay. I understand. I feel it too. He smiled at me, a smile full of hope. We will know the truth soon. For now, let's keep this between us. I will handle things with Adaku and others carefully. I left the room in a daze. Outside, Obina was waiting in the corridor, looking concerned. Is everything alright? He asked softly, walking up to me. I looked at him, my eyes shining with tears of an emotion I could not even begin to explain. I think everything might be more than all right, I said quietly, but I couldn't say more just yet. The king was very kind. He apologized and he just wanted to know how I'm doing. Obina gently touched my shoulder. I'm glad. You deserve kindness after all you went through. I gave him a small smile. Thank you for everything, Obina. You saved me. He shook his head. I did what was right. I couldn't let an innocent person suffer. We stood there a moment, just gazing at each other. His hand was still on my shoulder. I suddenly realized how close we were standing and all that had happened, and my heart swelled with gratitude and a deeper feeling I dared not to name out loud. I cleared my throat gently and stepped back, though I was reluctant to. I should get back to work, I said. He nodded. Yes, of course. Take it easy today, though. If you need rest, please rest. I actually did feel exhausted from the emotional roller coaster, but I also felt a surge of nervous energy about the possibility of what might come next. As I walked away to return to the kitchen, I whispered a prayer. If it is true that I have found my real father after all these years, please let everything work out. For the rest of that day, I walked in a bit of a haze. The palace was quieter after the big festival. Princess Adaku stayed mostly in her room, probably because she was embarrassed or being disciplined by the king. I avoided seeing her, which was fine by me. That night, the royal doctor quietly collected a few strands of my hair and the king's to send for the DNA test. It was done without anyone knowing, not even Chichi or Auntie Chinyere. I felt like I was on a big secret. It took 2 days for the test results to come back from the special lab. In those 2 days, I could hardly sleep or eat from nerves. King Ifeanyi was also restless. I saw him walking around looking deep in thought at times. He gave me gentle nods and smiles whenever we passed, but we didn't speak of it again in public. Obina noticed my anxiety and tried to cheer me up, not knowing the true reason. He likely thought I was still shaking from the false accusation incident. In the evenings, he would tell me funny stories of his training days to make me smile, and Chichi would join us in laughing. She had gotten over being shy around Obina and treated him like a big brother now. Finally, the day came when King Ifeanyi summoned me privately once more. I entered the same sitting room, my heart pounding. He stood by the table, holding an official-looking envelope. He looked at me, eyes wide with emotion. It's positive, he said simply, voice trembling with happiness. Amaka, the test shows that you are my biological daughter. You are the princess. I felt a huge wave of emotion crash over me. Joy, shock, relief, all swelling inside. I covered my mouth as tears poured from my eyes. It's true? I'm really your daughter. King Ifeanyi nodded, tears in his eyes too. He stepped forward and took both my hands in his. Yes, you are my child, the daughter I thought I lost 18 years ago. He laughed a little through his tears. No wonder. I always felt something special about you when I saw you. My heart must have recognized its own blood even if my eyes did not see it. I remembered how kindly he had looked at me that night he apologized, and even before, whenever he thanked me for my service. Perhaps I too had felt a connection but never understood it. We embraced tightly, father and daughter truly united. I cried into his shoulder, thinking of all the years I had wondered who I was. I thought I was unwanted, abandoned. But all along I had a family, a father, who had believed his daughter died, and a mother who unfortunately had passed not knowing the truth. The thought of my mother made me cry harder. King Ifeanyi stroked my back gently. You have your mother's face and grace, he whispered. She will be so proud of you. I just know it. I looked up at him. What happened, father? How did I go missing? Who would do such a thing? He frowned sadly. It seems the palace midwife, at that time, her name was Nneka, had conspired to steal our baby. She was the one who delivered you. After the test came back positive, I had my trusted men search for her. She had left the palace service shortly after the queen died, which, in hindsight, was suspicious. We found her living in a distant town. She confessed everything when we brought her here yesterday. My eyes widened at this revelation. So the midwife took me? Why? Why would she do that? Kingifani sighed. She was greedy and wanted her own daughter to have power and wealth. She had given birth to a baby girl just a few days before you were born. Her baby, Adaku, is who she put in your place. Nneka told the court ladies and me that her newborn child, you, had complications and died, which broke my heart at the time. Meanwhile, she secretly handed you off to someone. She admitted she left you at an orphanage, likely the very one where you grew up. She did that instead of harming you. Thank goodness. Perhaps because even she couldn't bring herself to harm an innocent child. Then, she presented her own baby, Adaku, as the royal baby, claiming the queen had twins and one survived. Apparently, in the confusion of the queen's sickness and passing, I wasn't in the room and the staff were so distraught they didn't question her too much. It was all a deceitful scheme. I listened with amazement and anger. Such a betrayal in the palace. So Adaku is the midwife's daughter, not your daughter at all. He nodded sadly. Yes. Adaku had no idea either. She was raised believing she was my princess, and I loved her as if she were truly mine. Nneka left the palace when Adaku was around 2 years old, possibly fearing I would suspect something eventually, or just to remove herself. She left Adaku behind to live a royal life. I felt pity and confusion. Adaku was also a victim of her mother's lies in a way, yet she had caused me so much pain. What will happen to them now? Kingifani squeezed my hand. Nneka will face justice for her crimes. She stole you away and deceived the kingdom. As for Adaku, this is delicate. She is not guilty of the initial crime because she was just a baby. But she has committed her own wrongs, especially against you. I'll be honest, my daughter, it is hard for me too. I did raise her for 18 years as my child. I cannot simply stop caring, but she can no longer have the title of princess or live here as if nothing happened. It wouldn't be right. I nodded slowly. This was all so much, but I understand his dilemma. I don't hate her, I found myself saying. I was very hurt by what she did, and it will take time for me to forgive that completely. But I also know now that she was living a life that was not truly hers to begin with. It must be a shock for her too. As if on cue, the door to the sitting room opened and 2 guards escorted Princess Adaku inside. Well, she wasn't really princess anymore, but none of us were used to that yet. Adaku looked like she had been crying for days. Her eyes were puffy, and she had removed her fancy jewelry. She wore a simple dress and had a defeated air about her. When she saw me standing next to King Ifeanyi and how close we were, a flash of pain and jealousy crossed her face, but she quickly dropped her gaze. Father, she said in a hoarse voice, then corrected herself. Your Majesty, She looked oddly lost for words. I had never seen Adaku so vulnerable. King Ifeanyi looked at her with a mix of sadness and sternness. Adaku, he said quietly, I have spoken with Nneka, your mother. Adaku flinched at the word mother, probably still adjusting to the truth that her real mother was that midwife, not the late queen. She sniffled. She came and told me everything before she was taken away. I swear I didn't know, Your Majesty. I thought I was your daughter. I was wrong to do all those horrible things. I was a terrible person. She choked on a sob. Now I have lost everything. I'm so sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. She couldn't continue, breaking down into tears. Seeing this once proud girl so broken was difficult. Even for me, who had suffered under her cruelty, I felt a stirring of compassion. As did the king, I could tell. King Ifeanyi approached Adaku and actually pulled her gentle into a hug as she cried. You may not be my blood, Adaku, he said softly, but I loved you as a daughter for 18 years. It's not easy to turn off that love. I am angry at what you did to Amaka, very angry, but I also understand that you were confused and raised with a lie. That blame is on Nneka for putting you and Amaka in this position. Adaku cried into his shoulder. I am so sorry, father, she said, still calling him by the only father she had known. I have been awful. I understand if you hate me now, He shook his head, patting her back. I don't hate you, but things must change now. The truth is out. Amaka is my true daughter and the princess of Umuoma. You will have to give up that title, and all that comes with it. Adaku pulled back, wiping her tears. She looked over at me for the first time directly. Her lips trembled. Congratulations, Amaka, she forced out, though it pained her to say. You'll be a much better princess than I ever was. I stepped forward slowly. My feelings were all over, but seeing my former bully in this state, I mostly felt sorry for her. Adaku. I don't even know what to call you now. I guessed just by your name. I'm not happy that you suffered, but I am happy the truth is known. I hope you can find a way to live a good life from now on as yourself. Adaku nodded miserably. They said I have to leave the palace, she whispered. King Ifeanyi confirmed, yes, for now. You will go with your mother's relatives away from Umuoma. They have agreed to take you in. Perhaps in time, when we are all healed, we can see you again. But right now, it's better this way. The people will be told gently that you are stepping down due to personal reasons, and later I will announce I have found my true daughter. Adaku just lowered her head. I understand. She took off the last item she had that signified royalty, a small signet ring with the palace crest, and placed it on the table. Her shoulders shook as she tried to hold back sobs. I felt tears in my own eyes, despite everything. It was a heartbreaking moment. All of us had lost something and gained something at the same time. King Ifeanyi had found his real daughter, but was losing the one he raised. Adaku learned she was never truly princess and had to leave the only family she knew. And I gained a father and a royal life, but I was also losing my anonymity and had years of lost time to mourn. As the guards gently escorted Adaku out to prepare her departure, she paused by the door and looked back at me. Amaka, I'm sorry, she said softly. I managed a tiny smile. I forgive you, I replied, and I realized I truly meant it, or at least I would in time. Her face crumpled with gratitude and regret, and then she was gone. King Ifeanyi put an arm around me protectively as we watched her leave. He sighed deeply. Are you all right, my daughter? I nodded and leaned into him. It felt a little strange, but wonderful to hear him call me his daughter. I think so, father. He smiled at the word father from me. Life will be very different for you now. We will take it one step at a time. I don't intend to throw you into royal duties right away. We will introduce you to the kingdom properly, but first, we will celebrate privately with the people in the palace who care about you. He was true to his word. The next day, the king gathered the palace staff in the main hall and announced joyfully that I was his long-lost daughter. Everyone gasped and then cheered. Chichi literally jumped up and down with excitement. Auntie Chinyere started dancing and thanking God right there. The other servants clapped and laughed, many coming to hug me and congratulate me. After the king gave a kind nod that they could treat me formally for a moment, they were all so happy because they knew me and liked me, and probably also because they had been uneasy around Adaku and would prefer a kinder princess. Obina was there too, standing with the guards off the side. Our eyes met across the room. He had the biggest smile on his face, and I could see pride and happiness in his eyes. My heart skipped with joy at seeing him share this moment. King Ifeanyi said I would soon have an official coronation ceremony where the chiefs and people of Umuoma would be invited to welcome their real princess. But today was just for the palace family to rejoice. He insisted that we all treat it like a holiday. He had the kitchens prepare a grand feast, and Chinyere was only too glad to cook all my favorite dishes this time, saying she always knew I was special. There was music and dancing in the courtyard that evening. I changed out of my servant uniform and for the first time wore a beautiful outfit that befits a princess, though still simple compared to full royal regalia. It was a lovely sky blue dress with gold embroidery. That one of the queen's old seamstresses quickly adjusted for me. They also gave me a set of light-weighted coral beads to wear on my neck and wrist, saying I should begin to dress like a princess I am. I felt a bit strange wearing such fine things, but everyone kept saying how it suited me. That night, under the sparkling light hung in the palace courtyard, I joined the dance with the staff and some of the royal family friends. I laughed and felt light as air. King Ifeanyi watched me with joy, and I felt at home and loved. At one point, I slipped away from the crowd to catch my breath near a quiet corner of the courtyard by a fountain. Obina followed after a minute or two. Finding me there, he approached respectfully. "You look absolutely beautiful," he said softly, looking at my dress and the small crown of beads I wore. I blushed, remembering I was no longer just a cook in an apron. And he wasn't just talking to a servant now, but a princess. "Thank you," I replied, smiling. "It feels strange, wearing these clothes and being celebrated. Just yesterday I was peeling yams and now everyone is calling me princess." He chuckled. "You have always been a princess. We just didn't know it. But truly, title or not, you have a kind heart. You treat everyone well. That's what makes you truly royal in spirit, if I may say." His words touched me deeply. "Obina, I wanted to thank you for everything. If you hadn't believed in me and found the evidence, I might not be here right now. And if I hadn't stayed, we might never have discovered who I really am." He shook his head modestly. "It was a team effort, and ultimately it was fate. I'm just glad you are happy. You deserve all the happiness." There was a brief silence as we looked at each other. There was so much emotion between us that hadn't been spoken. Now that I was officially a princess, I worried that maybe it created a distance. Could a princess be with a god? In modern times, perhaps yes, if the king allowed, but I wasn't sure what Obina was thinking. As if reading my thoughts, he took a breath and said, "Princess, I mean Amaka." He smiled sheepishly at using my name without a title. "Things are different now. You have a new life, new responsibilities. I don't know if you still want to talk with someone like me as you did before." I realized he was actually feeling shy and unsure because of my new status. It made me sad that he would think that, but happy too because it meant he cared enough to worry about losing our closeness. Without thinking, I reached out and took his hand. "Obina, you have always treated me with respect and kindness. You stood by me when I was just a nobody here. To me, you will always be the dear friend who protected and believed in me. I wouldn't have this happiness without you. So please, don't ever feel you are someone like me in a bad way. You are very important to me." He looked at our hands and then into my eyes. "And you are very important to me, Amaka," he said, voice soft and earnest. "To be honest, you have been important to me for a long time now. I just never imagined I could say it openly." He glanced around to ensure we weren't in clear view of everyone. Though the courtyard was full of revelers, we were behind a flower, semi-private. My heart pounded. "You can say anything to me," I whispered. He stepped a little closer. "I have feelings for you," he confessed, barely above a whisper. "Deep feelings. I admire your strength, your kindness, and I love you, Amaka." Though I had sensed it, hearing those words made my heart soar. I felt tears of happiness gather in my eyes yet again as I smiled brightly. "Obina, I love you too," I answered in a clear, soft voice. His face lit up with relief and joy, and for a sweet, brief moment, he gently cupped my cheek and leaned down to place a soft kiss on my forehead. He was always so respectful, even in affection. I closed my eyes, feeling completely happy and safe. We soon returned to the party, not wanting to raise any gossip by our long absence. But now there was a new lightness between us. We didn't have to hide our feelings anymore. When King Ifeanyi saw the way we looked at each other, he later pulled me aside privately and asked with a gentle tease, "So, my daughter, is there something you want to tell me about you and the captain of my guard?" I blushed deeply and stammered, "Father, I do care for him a lot." The king chuckled warmly. "He's a good man, brave, loyal and kind. He has proven that. If he is the one who holds your heart, you have my blessing." I hugged my father. grateful that he understood. The truth was, even before knowing I was his daughter, King Ifeanyi liked Obina as a person. Now that I was royalty, some might expect me to marry a prince or a noble, but my father knew happiness and love mattered more. Your mother married for love too, he told me, eyes misty. I will never force you into some arranged match. You choose who you love. In the weeks that followed, preparations for my formal introduction and coronation as Princess of Umuoma were in order way. It was a whirlwind. I had to learn etiquette, meet the elders and chiefs formally, and even practice walking and sitting with a heavier crown for the ceremony. Chichi joked that I was going to have a neck of steel with all the balancing books I did to practice good posture. Through it all, Obina was my steady support, though he continued his duties, training new guards and protecting the palace. We found time to talk every day. Sometimes he would accompany me on evening walks in the palace gardens, where we would talk about our hopes and dreams. I told him I wanted to start some charity programs to help orphans and poor children in the kingdom once I settled into my role, because I never forgot where I came from. He told me he dreamed of starting a security academy to train more young people with good value to serve and protect others. We encouraged each other's ideas, and our love grew stronger. Finally, the day of my coronation arrived. The palace hall was filled with dignitaries, officials, and select members of the public. It was grand, but I kept a calm heart. I wore a gorgeous traditional outfit, a flowing dress of rich green velvet with gold embroidery of the lion and star crest, and around my waist was tied a patterned Igbo wrapper. They placed beautiful coral beads around my neck and even in my hair. King Ifeanyi himself set a light tiara of gold and beads on my head in front of everyone and proclaimed me, Amaka, as the true princess of Umuoma Kingdom. The hall erupted in applause. I saw Auntie Chinyere in a corner wiping tears of joy, Chichi waving excitedly, and even some of the villagers who worked in the palace kitchen clapping wildly. Obina stood by the side in his formal guard uniform, pride evident in his eyes. I gave a short speech, keeping my words simple and heartfelt, as I promised to serve my people and make my kingdom proud. My voice trembled a bit, but I saw so many smiling faces that it gave me courage. The chiefs each came to bless me, and a short prayer was said in memory of my late mother, Queen Norma, whose spirit, they said, must be rejoicing at that moment. It was the happiest day of my life, till an even happier day came soon after. King Ifeanyi, seeing how much Obina and I loved each other, agreed to our union wholeheartedly. He even joked with Obina, "You have been like a son to me in loyalty. Now, you will truly be my son." Plans for our wedding were made, and the news that the princess was marrying a brave commoner turned chief guard became the talk of the town in a good way. People made romantic stories about it, saying it was like a movie or fairy tale. We decided to have the wedding not long after, a simple but joyful one. I didn't want too much. I wanted the people from all walks of life to feel welcome. We held it in the palace gardens, under a large white canopy with flowers everywhere. The entire palace staff and many villagers were invited alongside royals and nobles from other places. On my wedding day, I wore a lovely white gown for the church ceremony, because we did a church blessing first and then changed into a traditional wine-colored lace attire with gold beads for the cultural celebration that followed. I also wore a sparkling princess crown, the same one my mother had worn just for that special day. Obina looked so much handsome in his suit for the church part, and then in a traditional isiago, the Igbo royal pattern shirt, with a red cap for the reception. He couldn't stop smiling, neither could I. After we exchanged vows and were pronounced husband and wife, he lifted me slightly in a happy hug while everyone laughed and cheered. The reception was full of music and dancing. Auntie Chinyere supervised the cooking of a grand feast. There was jollof rice, pounded yam with egusi soup, pepper soup, my favorite, fried plantains, and even continental dishes for foreign guests. Everyone ate to their fill. Chichi was my maid of honor, and she almost tripped on her dress while bringing out the cake, causing a wave of laughter. One of those humorous moments that made the day light-hearted. Even I doubled over laughing, remembering how clumsy I used to be serving, and now here was Chichi giving everyone a good chuckle. During the father-daughter dance, King Ifeanyi held me close and whispered, "Your mother will be so proud of you today, and I am proud too, my precious daughter." I had to hold back tears so I wouldn't cry off my pretty makeup. Then Obina and I had our first dance as a married couple. He twirled me gently as one of the local bands played a sweet love song mixed with traditional drums. I felt like I was floating on air, looking into the eyes of the man I loved, in the presence of the family and friends I cherished. The celebration lasted into the night. There was a point where I looked around at the glittering light, the joyful people dancing, the beautiful palace decorations, and thought about how much had changed. A year ago, I was just a kitchen girl scrubbing pots with no idea of what was to come. I endured cruelty and hardship, but I also found love and friendship. Now, I was a princess, a wife, and a beloved daughter and friend to many. Life can truly have dramatic turns, like the Nollywood movies we sometimes watched for fun, but this was my real life, full of pain and joy, tears and laughter, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. At the end of that night, Obina and I snuck away from the crowd for a moment, stepping out to the quiet balcony overlooking the palace courtyard. The moon was shining bright. We held hands as husband and wife, standing where we could see the light from the party and hear the faint music and laughter. "I still feel like I'm dreaming," I said softly, leaning on his shoulder. "If it is, I don't want to wake up." He kissed the top of my head. "It's all real, Amaka. You deserve every bit of the happiness." "And so do you," I replied, looking up at him. "We both went through a lot to get here." He nodded. "Yes, we did, and I will do it again, all over, 100 times, just to be by your side." We stayed there for a moment, enjoying the peaceful night. Then I remembered something and smiled, reaching into the pocket of my traditional skirt. I had pockets, cleverly hidden. I took out the locket with the lion and star crest, the one that started this whole journey. I had asked the tailor to sew a small pocket so I could carry it that day. I held it in my palm in the moonlight. "Thank you for bringing me home," I whispered to the little necklace. Obina placed his hand over mine and the locket. He didn't know the full story of it, only that it was evidence of my identity, but he understood it's important to me. "Fate has a beautiful way of working out," he said. "Yes," I agreed. I looked into his eyes and said, "I'm home and I'm loved." "And always will be," he finished softly. With that, we rejoined the celebration, two hearts full of love, ready to face the future together. The story had many tears and trials, but it ended in joy. From a humble kitchen girl to the true princess of Umuoma, I learned that patience, kindness, and courage can carry you through the worst of times. And sometimes, life can surprise you with a happy ending, more wonderful than anything you can ever imagine. The palace that was once a place of sorrow and struggle for me had become a place of love and laughter. And as the new princess Amaka of Umuoma, married to the man of my dreams, I vowed to always use my life and position to spread kindness to everyone, from the highest noble to the lowest servant, because I knew exactly how it felt to be in their shoes. And so, our fairy tale in the beautiful palace of Umuoma came to its beautiful conclusion, with love, truth, and joy triumphing over bitterness and lies. The story teaches that kindness, patience, and humility are powerful virtues that can lead to greatness. Even when life seems unfair, it reminds us that the truth may take time, but it always comes out, and that we should never look down on anyone because people's true worth is not always visible. Amaka's journey from a mocked kitchen girl to a celebrated princess shows that our background doesn't define our future. It also highlights the value of loyalty and genuine love over status, and the healing power of forgiveness. In the end, good character, not titles or appearance, is what truly matters. Thank you so much for watching this amazing story about Amaka, the kitchen girl, on African Stories by V. If you liked it and felt inspired with our journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, Subscribe to African Stories by V, and do not forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.